In this video, I'm going to talk to you about some really important back to school stuff that not a lot of people are talking about these days, and it's not usually high up on the back to school checklist. I'm going to talk to you about school discipline and some of the key things that parents and teens and people in their early 20s miss when they're dealing with school discipline, whether it's with high schools or whether it's with colleges. And when they contact us and contact our team to get help with a school discipline situation, they sometimes didn't even know that they could get in trouble for what they're being accused of, or the problems that they're dealing with now at the school because of the situation that they were in. I'm Paul Ghanouni, founder and managing attorney at the Teen and Young Adult Defense Firm, where we focus on protecting the futures of people in their teens through their mid-20s when they get in trouble with the law. Now, this video is going to be kind of general information. It's not legal advice. If you're dealing with a situation like this is not going to be legal advice specific to your case. You can please feel free to contact our office for a complimentary defense strategy meeting if you are dealing with a situation and you need specific legal advice. So what a lot of people do, right, when they go back to school, they get a student handbook. Most people, they chuck it in a drawer, they don't look at it, they sign something saying they got it, but they never really look at it to see what's in there and what they need to be aware of. And obviously every county, every private school, every online school program has their own student handbook, has their own code of conduct, has their own policies. Every college is the same way. But I just pulled a couple of them to kind of highlight for you guys to get an understanding of the types of things that you want to look at and be aware of. Make sure if you're a parent that you're aware of and you can inform your student about. If you're a student that you're aware of, so that you make sure that you don't fall into one of these holes. So I'm going to start with talking to you about the Cherokee County School District. I went through and I pulled out some information that I think is important for people to be aware of. So a lot of the issues that come up, a lot of the rules that come up, they are for things that happen on campus, and this is with most schools. They're things that happen on campus, on school property, at a school-sponsored event, those types of things. They can even include the use of school technology, if it's provided to you, can be a violation. And then there's also things that can be violations that can cause you to get suspended or expelled for off-campus activity as well. And so I think that's really important for people to be aware of. So one of the things that people don't realize a lot of times when we're talking about school property, right? This is actually the definition that we have from the Cherokee County Student Handbook of what school property is defined as. And so they have school property includes, but is not limited to, any and all property owned and leased by or occupied by the school district, any other property or building, including a school bus stop, that the bus stop at your house, it can be in your front yard, anywhere that a school bus stop is, that is considered school property for the purposes of their code of conduct. Wherever located and where any school sponsored or sanctioned function or activity is conducted. So any place on the whole planet that they do a school sponsored activity is considered school property for the purposes of violating the school's code of conduct or the school's rules for Cherokee County. And then also you have any bus or vehicle used in connection with the school functions and activities, including but not limited to school buses, buses leased by the school district, and privately owned vehicles used for transportation to and from school activities. So that's something to really realize, is that all of these things count as school property in Cherokee County for their students' code of conduct. And I think, again, that's really important. I'll read you Cobb counties as well, just in case that's something that applies to you, and just to give you another example. So when they're defining school property, they say it includes, but it's not limited to, land and improvements which constitute the school, any other building or property, including school bus stops, wherever located, where any school function or activity is conducted, any bus or other vehicle used in connection with school functions and activities, including but not limited to school buses, buses leased by the school district, and privately owned vehicles used for transportation to and from school activities, and personal belongings, automobiles, or other vehicles which are located on school property. So your personal belongings, your automobiles, or other vehicles located on school property are considered school property in Cobb County for their code of conduct purposes. And both of these also talk about school technology, what that means, which includes school computers, school networks, school websites, things like that, hardware and software programs that are used. And so a lot of people think like, well, I may have done something, or I'm going to a football game, or I'm going to some other recreational activity that's put on by the school, something hosted by the school, and they don't realize that every single one of these code of conducts is applicable there, and you can get in trouble as though you were in school. And I think this is going to be really important to be a consideration when people are dealing with electronic learning, with digital learning, distance learning for people who are dealing with that or choosing to do that, to realize that the types of things that can be considered school technology, school activities, and the impacts that can have from a school rule violation. Another big thing that a lot of people don't realize that we have in regards to schools is, disciplining for off-campus student behavior. So this is from Cherokee County's school handbook that goes over disciplining off-campus behavior. And so this isn't even off-campus at like a school-sponsored activity. This is just off-campus in general, like not at a school-sponsored activity. So for Cherokee County, they say disciplining off-campus student behavior. The authority of administrators to discipline a student is not limited to the student's on-campus conduct. Students may be suspended or expelled for off-campus conduct which is reasonably related to any school activity and is contrary to the law or has an adverse impact on the good order, discipline, or learning environment at the school. It sounds pretty broad to you, right? It sounds pretty broad to me as well. In addition to that, not that plus this, in addition to that, students may also be expelled or denied admission if they are charged with a felony or a crime that would be a felony if not charged in juvenile court. So any off-campus activity that could be charged as a felony is what the school is defining as something that they can expel a student for. And I'm not saying that students should be committing off-campus felonies or anything like that, but recognizing that like a lot of drug offenses are felony offenses. A lot of other things that foolish young people do when they're kind of being foolish or foolhardy can be felonies, which can lead to an expulsion or suspension. And we've even had situations where parents contact the school after the kid gets in trouble and says, hey, this came up, just wanted to tell you about it, and then the school initiates an expulsion. So I think it's really important for parents to realize these, and students to realize these off-campus activities can be something that ends up leading to a suspension or an expulsion. The Cherokee County School District Handbook also goes on to talk about disruptive presence, which again talks about off-campus behavior that can lead to a expulsion for students if they're charged with a felony for off-campus behavior. So, similarly speaking, the Cobb County School District has the same type of rules with off-campus behavior that can be considered a felony, that it can lead to a suspension or expulsion, and I think that's important for people to realize too. And the big takeaway from that is going to be take a look at your individual school's handbooks. Don't just chuck it in a drawer. Take a look at it so you know what's in there. You know what types of things can lead to an expulsion. A lot of times people are surprised. They're like, it's the first time my kid got in trouble. I didn't think that the school would actually expel them for it. They will. Make sure you understand the rules. Make sure that the students in your life understand the rules so that they don't fall into this trap of getting expelled and having their educational experience ruined for something that they didn't realize was going to be taken so seriously by the school. Same thing that we have here in high schools, we have something similar. I just went ahead and pulled, for the purposes of today, Kennesaw State University's code of conduct, because we also have college students who contact us for help with code of conduct violations at college and allegations related to that. But they can expel you, they can suspend you, they can put you on academic probation for violations of the law that take place even off campus. And these are usually even broader, what we see written in college handbooks. We've seen situations where people are expelled or suspended or put on academic probation for something that takes place off campus, even a misdemeanor charge. The other issues to realize are that much like the high school code of conduct, the college ones may include off-campus activities. They may include activities that are sponsored at school-sponsored events, things like that, anything that can take place on campus, which can be a lot, especially if you're living on campus. You got a car on campus, you're driving around campus, you're walking around campus. It's basically for a lot of college students where they're living every day in their life. So it's really important, if you are a student, if you are a parent of a student, to make sure that you don't just ignore the fact that you got given a code of conduct, that you got told what the rules were and what can happen, that you take a look at those things and you make sure you understand what types of things you can get disciplined for, what the potential impacts of those types of things are, and how they can end up potentially getting you kicked out of school, getting you sent to an alternative school, getting you expelled, getting you suspended, so that you can avoid those types of mistakes, avoid those types of situations. If you're in a situation right now where you're dealing with a school suspension, a school disciplinary proceeding, something where a school is trying to expel you, please contact our office for a complimentary defense strategy meeting. We're happy to try to help in those situations. Often the timelines in those cases are very tight because the school usually has to hold hearings within 10 days in those types of situations. So the sooner you get started in the process to try to get representation and help, the more likely it is that the more impact and help we'll be able to provide in that situation. Hopefully you don't end up needing us for something like that, but if you do, we're here to help. Thank you.